Hey, okay, welcome back to hopefully what do we are here? Well, this is the Precision Data Analytics channel, formerly known as what? The Caribou Data Science channel. Let's go to YouTube, make sure we in fact are live. And of course, we're going to do live stock analysis this evening, beginning with the regular Tuesday night Vanguard LifeStrategy fund. Then we're going to move over to look at, oh, look at this. Here we are. And of course, as always, stop by the chat session and say hi, okay? Pop out chat, there we go. And yes, do not adjust your screen. We are in fact, I'm in fact using a narrow stream, okay? This is normally my short screen, but that's okay. Here also, let's just record this quickly over here. All right. And then come back and pick that up over here, right? Yeah. Good. So we'll come over here first of all. We're going to do a traditional Wednesday night session, right? Which is the LifeStrategy, Vanguard's LifeStrategy Growth Fund, all right? Let's clear out our input. Let's change our key. Now, I will mention right up front here, yes, we will be doing Applied Materials Inc. at the end of this first part of this live stream, okay? Now, we could take this entire function, right, and move it back up here, but we're not. We're going to leave it down there for right now, all right? Make sure we're clear. I'll give you a little heads up. The Applied Materials has been on kind of a wild ride so far here, so be sure to stay tuned for that one, okay? I want to point out again, all the basics, your stock analysis plots, candlestick plots, line plots, moving averages, RSI, MACD plots, returns, can all be done using simple quant mod functions. I had to add these other things, the profit for forecast, and this was mainly had to do a couple box plots, okay? So simple. We're setting the tipper symbol. We're setting the ticker, right? And then we're going to come over here. We're going to use ticker to pull the data, all right? Then we're going to print out the last date so we know what date we're working with. Of course, before we get too involved here, I want to be sure to ask you to stop by, click that subscribe button for me, the like button for me, and the bell icon will be notified when I go live, and share the video with one friend who is interested in either Vanguard LifeStrategy Funds or Applied Materials Inc. Okay? And so let's load our libraries, load our data. You see we're working with 28 because this is a fund. So now we're going to load this function here, okay? Then we're going to execute the function. And now we got a box plot for a conservative growth fund. Yeah, as you expect, a conservative growth fund. We don't see a lot of volatility in the prices. Okay, that's why it's called conservative, right? Of course, we see a few outliers here. So the size of the box gives us an idea of the volatility for that month. The center line represents the median value, the 50% value. The orange circle represents the average value. And you can see the volatility is pretty close here, and the 50% median line is pretty much in the center all the way up to here, which is kind of interesting, okay? And you can see here, the price actually closed, the closing price was a little lower this month than the previous month. Now let's take a look at let's take a look at a horizontal version of this plot, okay? Now this is interesting. Okay, well, that's the wrong thing, right? We'll come back to that plot in a moment, all right? we could actually put the function all the way up at the top, right? Somewhere up here, right? Or we could come down here. Let's try that. Let's get a little frisky. Let's come up here and let's move our function all the way back up here, okay? Because the only thing we actually need is just the function call, right? So hopefully this will work. So all we need down here is just this function call, right? Okay? But that's also true here. Did he change the name up here? Okay, and of course this is actually the same plot. The only difference is that this is horizontal, this is vertical. So let's come back up here. Let's just, on this again. Load our libraries again. Load our function. Load our, okay? So you can see here we are, you expect with a stock fund like this that there wouldn't be a lot of craziness going on in volatility, okay? Now let's look at the same plot, only we're going to look at it, I think. There we go. Now let's look at the vertical version of the plot. And it's interesting, you see that the prices, interesting, June, July, August, interesting that this is sort of this way, okay? So we're going July up. You can actually see there was a fair amount of volatility under. Let's do this. Let's move this. It probably wouldn't work with it. I don't think we got, well, we do got the right thing up here, don't we? Interesting. You don't see okay, that's a problem, isn't it? We're actually getting the same plots. That's probably because one function's out. One function is it's canceling out the other again. I'll fix that later on. I had to change one of the function's names, okay? Well, basically what it boils down to. But anyway, you can see here the price has continued to move forward as the months go on. There is some volatility here. Notice the whiskers again. Whiskers shows the minimum, maximum, closing price. But look what some of these. The minimum price was over here, but the maximum price wasn't nearly as far. This actually happens here also. Okay. And again, this is the same plot. I got to come back and fix that so we get both of them. Or maybe, what do you think? Should we just go with the single horizontal plot? Maybe. You know. Now my new favorite plot is the first and last close of the month. Okay. So what we have here is the circle represents the first closing price of the month, and the diamond and the triangle represents the last closing price of the month, regardless of what day that month is on. And you can see this stock has continually moved forward. For what? For 9 out of 10 months. Okay, very interesting. On this one here, there wasn't a lot of change that month. Interesting. Bollinger Bands. Again, you can see the volatility. There was a little volatility here in September. Yeah, I guess so. Okay, not a lot. The main thing here, again, the center line is the 20-day moving average. The two red lines represent plus and minus 2 standard deviations. And for the most part, the line stayed above the 20-day moving average and within its plus 2 standard deviation before dipping back down here and immediately rebounding. Okay. Now candlesticks aren't going to work because we don't have any. We only have a single closing price and no volumes report. MACD plots. So this also kind of gives us a little bit of the crazy volatility that's going on. Okay. We went. So the red line is the signal line, and what we're looking for is crossovers. Unfortunately, we don't have a histogram, but you can look here. This is a pretty strong movement here, a pretty sustained movement here. Okay, above, down, up again, then a big move up here. Okay, strong move up here, before dipping back down again into negative territory and finally recovering back here in the first part of October. 100-day moving average. This is also nice since about, well, we can see that since 100 days ago, for the last 100 days, right, the price has stayed above the 100-day moving average, the RSI plot. Well, you can see here, it looks like it dipped down to about 45. That's probably an overbought position maybe, or oversold position. And above here is either, yeah, this is overbought, this is oversold, right? So now let's quickly move on to the returns, weekly returns. Okay, weekly returns, monthly returns, a lot more monthly returns than the positive returns and negative months. Quarterly returns. Now this is interesting. It looks like we're going to wind up with 2 straight quarters in a row where the returns for the month have declined. Now we're moving on to the ever popular profit forecast. Now I want to give you a heads up. Stay tuned for a wild forecast ride with Applied American materials in just a couple minutes. Okay, so let's begin with analyzing 6 months worth of data. And again, well, I'm not sure really we're trying to predict, because obviously profit isn't really a stock forecast. It's really more of a business forecasting tool. So it's like, give me 1 second, be back in just 1 moment. Okay, I'm back. And of course, as always, welcome to my channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. Do me a favor, drop a comment in the description below, drop by the chat, drop me a comment. I will be including the link to this code in my in the description below. Okay, so again, you can see that that it is merging towards the center here. The two lines are merging. So if we actually, let's ignore this blue line and only look at the forecast line. Okay, so you would look at that and you would say, oh, that's not a bad forecast. It is generally trending upwards, right? It is kind of following the trend. Let's look at a 12-month forecast. 12 months worth of data. And you can see it's a little bit closer. We notice up here the two lines actually merge. Now that could be a good sign, maybe. It could mean that I could say we can probably say even the forecast is a little closer to the action line. So we again, if we ignore this, let's do something up here a little crazy. Display date start. So I mean, if we ignore this right here, okay, this wouldn't necessarily be a bad forecast. Simply because it does sort of match the trend. And remember, all we're looking for here is really the big trend. Okay, we're not remember the trend is our friend, right? We're not concerned with closing prices. We're not trying to predict daily price. We're trying to figure out whether the stock is going to close up, higher at the end of the month than it was lower. Okay, 24 months. The line smoothed out even more, which is kind of interesting. But you know, if you were to put a trend line here, right? Imagine a trend line going from here up to here. This would be kind of this would be kind of parallel in the trend. Okay, so we'll see what happens in the next 2 days if these lines have to merge. Okay, now as promised, let's go back and take a look at applied materials Inc. Okay, now brace yourself. I'm giving you fair warning. You're in for a bit of a wild ride now. Okay. Again, we're not going to do the second plot because I need to come in and change the function name. Change this up here so we're actually using 2 different types of code. All right. Let's come back up here again. Now let's come back. Reload our library. You have to reload the library. Of course, again, if you are out there, by all means, stop by the chat session and say hi. Okay. We are truly alive. So we loaded that, right? Now let's come down here, grab our data, okay? Go to our library. Okay, so now this is showing up right. Okay, notice we have quite a bit of we have quite a bit of volatility here among AMAT in August and September. And look where the median line's gone. Let's see if we can do this horizontally now. It may show the same thing. Let's see. So we got vertical and horizontal. Look how wide this band is when we expand it out. September and August, September, a little bit on the wild side. Okay, a little bit on the wild side. That's again just a reminder. The wider thing means there's a lot more volatility in the price. What it actually means is that 50% of the values for the month are falling within this box here. This is the 25% quartile, the 75% quartile. The difference is called the interquartile range. The whiskers represent the high and low closing price for the month. So what we see here is we probably have a lot of stuff stacked up to the right about now. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at our first and last closing. By the way, this is my new. Actually, I really like the horizontal plot, but this is my new favorite plot. This shows the first and last close for each month. Let's see what AMAT is doing up here. Hokey smoke, look what happened here in September. Wow. It opened at about, on the first trading day of the month, it was about 100 and say, let's say 55. And on the last trading day of the month, it was about 225. So we're talking about a 40-point swing here. Obviously, October isn't shaping up to be, but you can see you had a couple really strong negative months here. Because what it is, the circle means the first day of the month, the first trading day of the month. The diamond's the last trading day. So when the diamond's to the left, okay, of the circle, that means it actually closed lower. Bollinger Bands. Look at this this craziness back over here. Hokey smoke. It dipped below, it spent some weeks below again, this is plus, the red lines is plus and minus 2 standard deviations. The center line is 20 moving average, and this is the actual closing price. Now look at this. Dip below, back above here. Now it's back above so it's back in the plus. It's back on the plus side. We should get candlesticks now. We do. Volume. The volume peaked back here in September. Now look at this over here. Look at all these red. If I understand properly, the red boxes mean the price closed down, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it means the price is closed down. All right. MACD plot. Look at this big move. The red line's the signal line. What we're looking for is crossovers. We had really two big movements here. One below the signal line, and one stronger back above, and now it's a little below. Okay, 100-day moving average. Look at this. Here right in September, it went below 100-day moving average before climbing up crazily again. So again, 160 up to over 220. I wonder what, I'm going to make a stab and say something must have happened with their numbers here at the end of the third quarter that really caused this big jump. But you know what else? IBM and Ford have also jumped during the last month or so, the last few weeks. RSI plot. So it went basically, what is this? Overbought, is this right? Oversold to overbought and back down again. Now we're going to return to return. Now we're going to take a look at returns. Weekly returns since the first of the year. Okay. Quarterly or monthly returns. Good news. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this means we've had 6 positive months and 2 negative months. Quarterly returns. The first quarter of the year was not a good picture, but look what happened. We bounced back in the second quarter. Again, we must have got some strong numbers in the second quarter. And then it kind of cooled back off for the third quarter and going into the fourth quarter. Now we're going to profit. Now brace yourself, fasten your seatbelt. You're in for a wild ride here. Okay, I want to remind you again: profit is not the best. It's not the tool to use for if you're really trying to guess the stock market. The best we can hope for profit is it'll give us some idea what the trend is going to be for the month, okay? So we're looking at 6 months worth of data. There's our forecast. But if you look back over here, okay, but how could I look at this data here and forecast back over here, okay? But if we forecast it back over here at the end of September, yeah, this would be a good set of numbers, right? Okay, let's look at 12 months. The question is, am I doing something wrong here? Forecast start 10/11. Suppose we start the forecast. I tell you what, because I'm in a chipper mood tonight, we're going to do this, then we're going to go back and we're going to do the forecast for November, okay? We'll see what happens. Our 30-day forecast begins in November. Now we're using 12 months worth of data, okay? Finally, let's look at 24 months worth of data. So what we want to know is, what is going to happen in the month of November, right? Just the 6th. So we're going to start the forecast. Okay. We're going to bump our display date up 1 month. Now this doesn't affect the forecast. This is just the amount of historical data it's going to show. So we're doing, beginning with November 1st, we're doing a 30-day forecast. Okay. Now look what happened. Let's come back up here, and let's add 2 more months of historical data in there. See if it's actually forecasting at the top of the peak. Interesting. So now it's forecasting that it's going to continue upward. So once again, this was 11. And 7 months worth, and data is 7. So the forecast for October pretty much a wash. But this one here, well, it's predicting a slight trend up, is saying it's going to dip back down. Interesting. So we'll be sure to keep an eye on this, right? So pick your poison. 6, 12, or 24 months worth of data. And this is below. So this is saying the price is going to increase. Now it could just be that the amount of data is skewing it lower or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. But this is saying it's going to, first of all, up here, I'm going to go with this one. I don't know if it's correct, but I'm going to go with this one because I like the forecast better. So this is slightly, so we'll see what happens. Again, what we're hoping for, of all things being equal, unless something really crazy happens between now and the end of November, we're hoping for maybe this back up here. Unless, of course, it's saying the price is going to drop down and then pick back up. What do you think? But let's take a look a little closer here. Yeah, this is going up at a little steeper rate also, okay? This is leveled off a little bit, and this is even leveled off more. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what AMT does over the next month. We're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to do something a little funky. We're going to come back up here, and we're actually going to keep a version of AMD up here, okay? Oops. We're going to copy this. Then we're going to create a version. Comment this out. Okay, but we're going to just go ahead and hard code in this one right here. And one thing we're really interested in, what we're really interested in is the forecast in it. Because this really is going to me, this is going to be an interesting forecast to watch, even at our most basic level. So it's using ticker up here. Okay, what we're going to do is, we're going to create a second ticket line here, okay? We're going to comment this out until after the first of the month. All right, and we'll just use this every night to check our forecast. That's really all. That's really. Although we could, of course, uh, do both. What the hell? Maybe we'll come back once a week and check AMT. Okay, we can certainly do something like that. I'm not concerned about, because what I'm concerned about is forecast for AMT, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. No, we really, yeah, let's just go ahead and do it anyway. I can't decide what I want to do. So what do you think about this live broadcast here? I'll tell you what. What's it been so far? 31 minutes. 31 minutes is enough. Unless someone's out there in TV land, we're going to bring this session to a close. Like I said, be sure to include a link to this repository in the video description, okay? And that's it for tonight, folks. Unless someone's in the background and wants to stop by and tell me to continue, that's it for this evening.